podcast deals with schedules of reinforcement. When you look at the definition of reinforcement, reinforcement is the likelihood that the behavior will be strengthened or repeated if followed by a reinforcer. So reinforcers strengthen behavior, they increase the likelihood the behavior will be repeated. When we look at different schedules, some of them are defined as continuous and some of them are defined as partial. If you look at a continuous schedule of reinforcement, you'll find that every time the desired behavior occurs, it's reinforced. The behavior oftentimes is learned quickly, but on the other side, it also is extinguished very quickly. We talked about extinction in classical conditioning. This also applies with operant conditioning. So if you want a behavior to be learned quickly, you reinforce it every time. Oftentimes we find, however, that once the reinforcement is no longer given, the behavior goes away. For example, not doing homework if it's not worth points. Not working if you no longer get paid. The other type of reinforcement is partial. Partial schedules operate on the fact that reinforcement occurs intermittently. So you're not exactly sure when the reinforcement is going to be given. We have found through research that learning in this particular way does take longer. However, once the behavior is learned, the results tend to be more persistent and stable over time. We are going to be taking a look at the reinforcement schedules that were devised through the work of B.F. Skinner. Fixed and variable ratio and fixed and variable interval. If you get a chance to go on the PowerPoint, you can take a look at the embedded videos here that demonstrate Pavlov's original work. A fixed ratio schedule is when you have a specific number of correct responses that are required before reinforcement occurs. When you see the word fixed, you need to remember that fixed means it's predictable. When you see the word ratio, you have to remember that it's based on the person or the animal's responses. It's something they have control over. It's something that they do or respond to. So when you take a look at Skinner's operant chamber, on a fixed ratio schedule, you would find that a rat must press the bar, let's say 20 times before it gets a food pellet. So it's fixed, it's predictable, it's 20 times, and it's a ratio schedule because it's based on a rat's pressing the lever or bar. When you apply this to a real-world example, we oftentimes see examples of fixed ratio when you look at punch cards. Any kind of card that you have in your wallet where, let's say, you get so many subs, 5 subs, the 6th one's free. Or you buy a coffee. After the 10th time, you get a free coffee. That goes for oil changes or haircuts. People who work on sales commission know that they get their payment based off of selling a particular item. So maybe at the end of the night, they know that their reward comes with however many they have sold. So let's say I sell encyclopedias. I know that I get my payment after selling my 10th set of encyclopedias. Another example would be if a teacher tells you to do 20 extra credit problems. After you complete the 20 problems, you get 5 extra credit points. Same holds true for the buy one, get one half off. With a variable ratio schedule, you're still dealing with responses because it's a ratio schedule, but because it's variable, it's unpredictable, it's random. So reinforcement occurs after an unpredictable number of correct responses. For Skinner, in the operant chamber, or Skinner box, a rat would continuously press a bar until it gets a food pellet, sometimes after 5 presses, sometimes after 15. It was random and unpredictable, but it did perpetuate the rat continually pressing the bar with the hopes that it would get a food pellet. In the real world, we operate on variable ratio schedules. They can be very powerful. Slot machines, the lottery. We know gambling is even an addiction, so a lot of people will invest money with the hopes that it's going to pay out. Hunters, fishermen or women, they oftentimes find these activities to be very fulfilling and thrilling with the hopes of throwing their line, casting their line, and getting a fish, or going out on deer hunting opener and getting a buck. So variable ratio schedules can be very powerful. We also know that sometimes parents can be really consistent with their discipline and not give in to a whiny or a child who throws a temper tantrum. But if they give in just one time, it's a variable ratio schedule, which perpetuates the whining and the temper tantrum throwing that the children might display. If it's an interval schedule, it's based on time, and we know that fixed schedules are predictable. So in this case, reinforcement occurs only after a specific amount of time has passed. So in the Skinner box, a rat receives a food pellet every 2 minutes, no matter how many times it presses the bar. Honestly, it wouldn't even have to press the bar because it's not based on the action. It would simply find reinforcement would come after 2 minutes has passed. In the real world, we sometimes operate on fixed interval schedules when we receive paychecks. If it's set and it's predictable, for me as a teacher, I get paid on the 15th and the 1st of every month. It doesn't matter if teachers are really good, mediocre, or crummy. It's not based on the act of teaching. It's based on a time schedule. Sometimes checking for mail. You might know that the package is going to come on the 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10 days, right? 7 to 10 business days. So you know that you're going to get your reward on one of those days. It's a fixed schedule. Sometimes we look at even just birthdays or Christmas or certain holidays. That's our reward. So it's a predictable amount of time. If it's unpredictable amounts of time, it's considered a variable interval schedule. So reinforcement occurs only after an unpredictable amount of time has passed. In the Skinner box, a rat might be reinforced after 5 seconds, then 15, then 3 seconds later, no matter how much it presses the bar or if it doesn't press the bar at all. It's all based on a random, unpredictable amount of time. In the real world, sometimes you see this happen when, let's say you're waiting for a college acceptance letter. You know you've applied, you know they're going to get back to you, but you have no idea when that reinforcement is going to be given. Sometimes you look at traffic lights and you try and guess when it's going to turn green. If you go back in the day to dial up internet connections, you're not sure how long it's going to take to get internet access. Or back in the day when you would have busy signals on the phone. You try to make a call and it would be busy. Try again, busy. You knew after a matter of time, unpredictable amount of time, you would get through. Sometimes people have had to wait for the cable guy or other service providers. They give you a window. I'll give you a 2-hour window from 10 to 12, and you sit there waiting for them to come, an unpredictable amount of time. So if you look at these reinforcement schedules, you can just test yourself as to which schedule is being used. Checking to see if the cookies are done when the baking time is known. You set the timer for 13 minutes, and you're anticipating the delicious cookie. You keep checking. This is fixed interval. Asking people out on dates, trying to get as many dates as possible. You're not sure if they're going to say yes or no. It's unpredictable, but it's based on your actions. This makes it a variable ratio schedule. A surfer waiting for the perfect wave. It really doesn't have anything to do with the surfer. It has to do with the wave and just a random amount of time having to pass before the perfect wave presents itself. So this is variable interval. June 5th, 2015. This is a pretty exciting date for seniors. It's a set amount of time. It is fixed interval. So hopefully you did well on this and you have a better understanding of the reinforcement schedules by B.F. Skinner.